Start if you have a cell phone, just check to make sure it's on silent. 7:30, okay. Good evening, everybody. This is a meeting of the Tinton Falls Borough Council being held August 10th, 2021. This meeting is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, by notification to the Asbury Park Press, the Newark Star Ledger, and the New Coaster at least 48 hours prior to the meeting.
Thank you. May I ask the clerk to call the roll?
Mrs. Clay? Yes. Mr. Manginelli?
Here.
Mr. Nessie?
Here.
Mr. Siebert?
Here.
Ms. Buckley?
Here. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to join me in a salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If those of you haven't been in the courtroom for a while, this meeting is now being streamed on YouTube, so we have videos in the courtroom. There's one up there, and there's one at the dais here, just so everybody's aware that we're being videoed. There's one set of meeting minutes for approval this evening. May I have a motion to approve the April 20th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
Motion? Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clay? Yes. Mr. Manginelli?
Yes.
Mr. Nessie?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes. Now we move on to reports, and this evening we are happy to have an Eagle Scout presentation honoring Luke Taylor Oakley. I'd like to ask Luke if he wants to come up to the front here so we can read you the proclamation. Proclamation honoring Luke Taylor Oakley for the achievement of Eagle Scout. Whereas Luke Taylor Oakley has been involved in scouting for 7 years and attained the rank of Eagle Scout on July 7, 2020. As a member of Boy Scout Troop 67, he obtained the highest rank in scouting, an honor to which is only bestowed upon 4% of all boys who join the ranks of scouting. And whereas the principles of citizenship, physical fitness, and service provide the cornerstone of scouting, those few young men who become Eagle Scouts have already demonstrated a long-term dedication to those principles while cultivating their leadership potential. These young adults will surely be the kind of leaders we believe in the future. And whereas Luke's Eagle Scout project was for the Associated Humane Society of Tinton Falls, it consisted of building 2 sets of steps and a landing on the wall of the cat room for cats that need more running space. The project will also offer people hoping to adopt a cat additional space to visit and play with them. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of Tinton Falls that Luke Taylor Oakley be congratulated for receiving the rank of Eagle Scout. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation will be forwarded to the Boy Scout Troop of America, Troop 67. And I'm reading this on behalf of the Mayor who was unable to be with us this evening. Congratulations. Okay. Before we continue with reports this evening, thank you. We will move on to the next agenda item. We're required to hold a public hearing on the submission of the 2021 Municipal Open Space Grant application, and I'd like to turn over the floor to our Borough Engineer, Tom Neff, to discuss the details of the grant application.
Thank you, Council President. So as Ms. Buckley mentioned, this is the public hearing for the Monmouth County Municipal Open Space Grant application. I'll give a brief overview of the grant, what we're looking to do, and then we'll open it up to council for any questions or comments, and then the public. So it's an annual grant that the Monmouth County Park System puts out every year. Each year they allocate about $2 million for the county. and the maximum grant award each year is $250,000. This grant is a matching grant, 50%. So any grants that we receive, the borough would have to put up a matching amount. Typically that comes from the borough's open space trust fund. So the grant application can be used for acquisition of new open space, redevelopment of existing parks, or development of new parks and new facilities. Typically they do prefer new facilities over renovating or replacing existing facilities. Last year we got $127,000 for Liberty Park Dog Park. We actually have the contract award for that construction on consent agenda tonight. So we're going to be moving forward with that project. The year prior, we received $200,000 for Wardell Park for the new facilities over there. So we have been pretty successful with this grant in the past. So we took a look at the different options. Most of the available open space in the borough has already been purchased or is under plans with the current property owner. So we looked at the different parks, and what we're thinking of applying for this year is a new restroom building at the new Wardell Park. So since the park has opened earlier this summer, it's been very successful, very busy. A lot of people have been asking about restrooms out there. We do have porta-johns, but we don't have a building. The borough did spend over $1 million on the improvements that were out there, so we just didn't have funds at the time to do the full restroom building, especially because there's not public water or sewer within the road there at Wardell Road. So now we have this grant opportunity. We think it would be a good time to go in, get some county funds potentially to do the restroom building. So the total costs are still being finalized, but we're thinking for the work within the park, based on the prices that we saw at Sycamore Park, where we're going to be putting in a new restroom building there. It's probably around $450,000 for the building. So it would be a building with separate men's, separate women's bathrooms. We would likely need a sanitary sewer pump station, which is a good part of that cost as well. So again, we think it's about $450,000. So we'd submit for half of that, which would be about $225,000. So it would include, again, the bathroom building, the pump station, water service out to the road. We'd have to work with New Jersey American Water separately on extending the water main, but it is something that's doable. And then also just a little bit of sidewalk within the site to connect the building to the existing sidewalk. So again, this is the public meeting. If council is in support of it, we would finalize the grant application, finalize the cost estimate, and then at the first meeting in September, we'd have everything finalized. We do a resolution of support at that time. The application is due September 16th, and typically we hear sometime in December, hopefully before the end of the year if we're successful or not.
Okay.
So that's the overview. I don't know if council has any questions or comments. I think it's a good idea.
Do any members of council, Mr. Nessie? You have a question?
So, Mr. Neff, you said this is the grants every year, right? And matching up to 250?
Correct.
Okay. The going to Wardell Park, I think it's putting a restroom there is definitely needed. I think it's a great idea. For the amount of people, I've been only there what, 3 times with my kids just to go to the playground area, and each time we've been there, there must have been, I don't know, 24 cars, everyone playing pickleball. So I think by putting a restroom there is definitely needed. I think the porta-john, I didn't know was where it was going to be. It works out really well, I think, but it's a little far. Do you know where you'll put the restrooms?
So the restrooms would go near the pickleball. If you're standing with your back to the site in the parking lot, the pickleball fields are on your right, parking lot's kind of on your left. There's an open grassy area,
Okay.
kind of between the driveway and the pickleball courts. We have enough room right there. We'd be able to run the water and sewer in from the road without having to go through any of the new pavement or anything that we did in this site.
Perfect. Thanks.
Tony, you have the sewer lines there as well?
So there is not a sewer line within Wardell Road. Based on the elevations, we would likely need a pump station, which would be a force main. So that way we can kind of, it gives us a little more flexibility with where we put it. There's sewer either across the way on Saratoga, which is one of the Fox Chase developments over there. So we've had some preliminary discussions with the property management and HOA over there to see if we can work out an agreement to kind of cut through their property. If not, we would go towards Appaloosa, one of the other streets, which is where the water main would likely go to.
So if I understand you correctly, you would not put the restrooms until you resolve the sewer?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, and we've started, like I said, we've started some of those discussions, but yeah, we would make sure we can do all of that before we did any of this.
Okay.
I also think it's a fantastic idea. I'm thrilled with how much use the park has already gotten, and I think it'll be very, very needed, because I just see it picking up further in the future, so.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
I know it sounds kind of small, but will there be water fountains there? Would that be incorporated? Because I've seen a lot of new water
We can
fountains.
do that. I was actually just looking at the plans again for Sycamore, what we're doing there. And we do have a water fountain with the water bottle filler now too. It's kind of
Yeah.
a new style. So we can do the same thing.
Right, yeah, I like those. I
Yep.
mean, they're just my preference. I see a lot of people using them. A lot of people bring water bottles, so
Yeah.
Yep,
I think it's important.
Yeah, no, it's a great thought.
do that.
With the amount of work that's been done throughout the town on other parks, we're kind of, this is really one of the top items on the list, because we've made so many improvements to other parks in town, including through this grant, and this would be a major improvement to that park in particular.
Tom, one other thing, Tom, considering it's a rather remote location, is there any consideration to giving food concessions, introducing food concessions there?
We haven't thought about that. Typically, those are more at parks where there's organized sports, where they're having football games or baseball games, because someone has to work it. So usually it's Little League working it or Pop Warner working it. So I'm not sure how that would work at this park.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, council, for your comments, and thank you, Mr. Neff, for the overview. If I could have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Now, this is a reminder that the comments for this portion of the meeting will be limited to 3 minutes and can only pertain to the topic of this particular open space grant application. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on the application? Please state your name and address for the record. Yes, ma'am. And then-
May I just want to know, do you have...
Yes, she's, Ms. Catalano's going first.
Good evening. Do you have a cap on the amount?
Sorry, could you just state your name and address for the
That it will
record?
be, the most you're willing to spend? Do you have a cap that says if bids come in a higher rate than what you're projecting, you will not do it, or you'll come back to the council and restate it and resubmit it at a different level of what the cost factors might be?
Sorry, sir, could you just state your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry, Daniel Levine, and I live in the Greenbrier.
Great, thank you. Mr. Neff?
So at the next council meeting, we'll have a little bit of a better, well, we will have a better idea, preliminary cost estimate of the exact costs. So the grant, the maximum amount that we can request is $250,000, which would mean that we would have to, we as in the borough would have to spend $250,000. But we would come back to council before doing anything official, before finalizing it, before going out to bid. That would all have to be part of the budget.
Well, because I'm just stating, is there a price that would be too much for expenditure, and that it would just be null and void the vote tonight saying, yes, go ahead with it? There's any port that they say you got to come back with a complete new program and a complete new pricing and then vote on it again?
Well, there's nothing locking the borough into this. If we submit the grant application, even if we get the funds, and if it were to, the bids were to come in at $1 million or something, where we wouldn't expect it to be that cost, we could always renege on the grant and give it back to the county.
No, but also, as you, and I don't mean to take up any more time, that you can use existing properties, existing money that you spent for a particular project going towards your half that you have to apply to get the grant. If you spent $1 million someplace, and you have to put up $250,000 for this project, you have already had something put up in this particular project to offset that $250 that you have to spend
No, it
additional.
has to be
No?
part of this specific project, the
Oh, I see.
match.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Catalano?
Denise Catalano, 11 Alpine Trail. First off, congratulations to you and everybody on Wardell Park. I am playing pickleball there. If you go there 8:30 in the morning, you probably find about 30 people playing. At 4 people on 6 courts, it's 24, so there's always people rotating in, and it's working quite well. Last night, there was a call put out for people to play at 4. I got there, and there was maybe 8 of us. By the time I left 2 hours later, there was about 25 people. So it is very successful. They did ask about bathrooms, and I told them it's coming, just hold your breath. They've asked about the lights. Are the lights on? And I couldn't answer that.
I can just answer it real quick. We had to have Verizon move a utility pole, which took a little bit of time, and then JCP&L now has to hook up their lines. Should be within 2 weeks or so.
Okay. And Sherry's now been involved. There've been, people want things a certain way, and I've been trying to keep Sherry up to date as well as you. And so she's taking care of it, and I got our ambassador, Kim Smith, involved. So things are going well. But in terms of concession stand, it probably wouldn't pay to put one in because I don't think it would be used much. But I can tell you that the bathrooms and a water fountain would. So if anybody ever wants to ask about what's going on behind the scenes, you know how to reach me. I'm not a stranger in here, as everybody knows. You have my info. So thank you. But it's a very good success story, even though it's like seems out of the way. In terms of hidden, people are coming from Asbury Park, from Belmar. They have something called the Team Reach on the site. You sign up there and you can kind of like text each other through it and everybody sees it. I think there's something like 400 people on it, so
Wow.
it is popular. So congratulations.
Thank you. Was there another public comment? Yes, Ms. Goldberg.
Good evening. Ellen Goldberg, 90 Glenwood Drive. Also want to congratulate you on Wardell Park. It's absolutely beautiful. You did a great job. Thank you to everybody. I just had a couple of questions. I think that a restroom and drinking facilities are excellent idea, and I think that's a great place to go for the grant. But I'm just wondering, are there times when it's closed or open? Who would be responsible for that if that were the case?
So I imagine that would be handled similar to the other restroom buildings in the borough. DPW typically opens and closes every day.
Okay, and would there be an extra cost for maintenance and for, just opening and closing the building? Just wondering if that's...
Actually, it may reduce our annual cost a little bit because right now we have to rent porta-johns year-round, 2
Okay.
porta-johns there. So believe it or not, that's quite expensive. So overall, I don't believe there'll be much of a maintenance
Okay.
additional cost.
I was just wondering. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Next, we'll continue with reports, and we'll start with Mr. Neff.
Thank you. Just a few other things. We do have a lot of projects going on in town. Later on tonight, under the consent agenda, there are 2 resolutions for award of new construction contracts. One is the 2021 various park improvements. That is for one of the projects I just mentioned, the Liberty Park Dog Park, as well as some other improvements out there. Also improvements at Hockoxen Park and Riverdale Avenue West Park. Contractor for that is Short Top. They are just wrapping up with Wardell Park. So they're going to be moving right into this project. They did a great job, so we have no concerns with them being awarded this project. We also have the Shrewsbury Avenue Pump Station project. That's something that is needed for the sanitary sewer system. TR Winiger is potentially being awarded that project. They've done a number of these projects for the borough in the past year, so I have no objection to that award. As I mentioned, Shore Top, it's just wrapped up everything at Wardell Park. So we have the final change order and project closeout on for them tonight. That project ended up being about $9,000 under budget, so it's a negative change order, which I always like to see. Then just a couple of general updates. The Hope Road truck restriction that we submitted to DOT a number of months ago was approved. Eatontown adopted their corresponding ordinance as well for their portion of the road at the southeast corner. So DOT has approved all of that now, so you will see the police and DPW getting some more signs up and the police starting to enforce that restriction out there. And I also just wanted to give a quick update on Monmouth County Reclamation Center. I know there's been a lot of questions on the Phase 4 expansion, what may or may not be happening with that. Just the update is that essentially it's still under review. DEP had requested information from the county and their engineering team. Information had been submitted, DEP reviewed it, and they came back earlier this month indicating that the application is still incomplete. So they requested additional information still, and it's still under review at this time, so nothing has been approved yet out at the landfill for the expansion.
Great.
That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Neff. Mr. Fallon,
Yeah.
for your report.
Thank you, Council President, and good evening, everyone. Tonight we have Ordinance 2021-1478 on the agenda for introduction. This ordinance provides a supplemental appropriation of $400,000 to the ordinance that was passed last year for development and improvements to various parks in the borough. This is necessary as there are two items that were not known at the time of the preparation and the adoption of the 2021 capital budget and open space trust budget. Those two items were the acquisition of 97 Shark River Road and field lighting replacement and improvements that were necessary at Hockoxen fields due to some storm damage. This ordinance will have no impact on municipal taxes and will ultimately be funded by the borough's Open Space Trust Fund. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fallon. We don't have the mayor this evening. Mr. Starkey?
Yes, thank you, Council President. And this is, one item I have is a follow-up on what Mr. Fallon just spoke about. The borough is acquiring the property at 97 Shark River Road. You'll recall that you approved this by ordinance a few meetings ago. We anticipate closing on that day after tomorrow. That's on Thursday, and that will give really great access to the Walls property, which the borough bought just a few years ago. We're actually buying this from the estate of the same family that sold that larger tract behind it. So I'll let everybody know, but I think on Thursday we'll be able to get that closed.
Great.
So that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Starkey. Ms. Hessler, Borough Clerk?
Thank you, Council President. I don't have a report this evening.
Okay, great, thank you. For council reports, we'll start with Ms. Clay.
Thank you, Council President. On July 26th, which seems like a million years ago, I attended the Board of Ed meeting, and my notes from that were that I just wanted to mention that ESY, which is extended school year, was well underway. And in addition, there was a presentation by the director of curriculum, and she explained that the school district was working on enrichment ideas as well as coaching ideas for the fall to assist staff in helping students close the gap, which resulted for many kids as the school was closed and switched to virtual learning last year. Also, I would like to just offer congratulations to Luke and his family on accomplishing Eagle Scout, which is a huge honor. And lastly, I'm looking forward to tomorrow evening when Mr. Manginelli and I, along with several others, will be having our first official cannabis subcommittee meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Clay. Mr. Manginelli, for your report?
Yeah, we got two great events coming up. I'm sure Ellen will be talking about the Save the Library, which happens this weekend, right, Ellen? You're gonna give it a plug, I'm sure. There's another event by the Historical Preservation, which is called A Taste of Tinton Falls, and it takes place on the 28th at the Crawford House. I believe they are at capacity, so I'm going to not sell it because you may not be able to get in there. But it's being put together beautifully. There are going to be food vendors there, and if they're sold out, too bad. Bad luck for you folks. But it's just something that they're doing, and they're going to do things like this throughout the year. And I wanted to mention that tonight. I have nothing else, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Manginelli. Mr. Nessie, for your report?
Thank you, Council President, and good evening, everybody. A few things for tomorrow night's meeting at 7 o'clock for the Planning Board. There's a few items involving some signs from the schools that want to get passed. Flagpole seems pretty straightforward. I also had a lengthy conversation with representatives from Soldier On, Bruce, Kelly, and Casey. I'm proud to announce that I am the official resident barber at the Soldier On facility, hoping to turn this into something bigger, maybe replicate this at what we're doing in Tinton Falls with just bringing barbers in, cutting the residents' hair to the other facilities throughout the country. I have my tickets for the Taste of Tinton Falls, so we're going to that. But I will not be making the library event because I will not be here. So I'm sorry. And so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Nessie. Mr. Siebert, for your report?
As my fellow council members has prequeled, the Library Music Fest is this Saturday. You can get more information on the borough website or the library website. It's going to be a great event. There's bands, food, beer. So come on out, enjoy a great afternoon, evening. And in regards to the truck ban on Hope Road, I'm very happy to see that, especially after the borough spent lots of tax dollars repaving that road that was beat up from trucks over the years. So hopefully that'll last a lot longer this time, and we won't have to be spending taxpayer money on a road that's being beat up by trucks that shouldn't be on that road. So thank you very much in getting that moving forward, and I look forward to seeing the signs and less trucks on that road. They should be on county roads, not on borough roads. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Siebert. As for myself, we have the next Tinton Falls Environmental Commission meeting on Thursday, August 26th. Haven't decided whether it'll be virtual or hybrid. Last meeting we held successfully was hybrid. Want to thank the IT department for fixing and upgrading the Wi-Fi in the Crawford House, so now we can have hybrid meetings and video meetings and presentations without issue, so thank you for that. I will be attending the library picnic this Saturday at Sycamore Fields. And I did get a ticket to the Taste of Tinton Falls on Saturday the 28th. So I'm very happy that we have these community events going on. And I think, Mrs. Clay, just to broadcast again, Community Day is October 10th. Is that correct? Is that the right date?
Yes.
Sunday?
Sunday,
Okay.
yes.
Mark your calendars for that as well. That's our big annual event. Thank you, everybody. That's all for my report. Next, we move on to ordinances for introduction. There's one ordinance on for introduction this evening. I'd like to remind the public that when an ordinance is introduced, there's no public discussion. The public discussion for the following ordinance will take place when it is up for final consideration. With that, may I ask the clerk to read the title of the first ordinance?
Ordinance 2021-1478, Bond Ordinance of the Borough of Tinton Falls in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, providing for a supplemental appropriation of $400,000 for park development and improvements, and providing for the issuance of an additional $400,000 of bonds and notes to finance a portion of the cost thereof. The public hearing is scheduled for Thursday, September 9th, 2021.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the introduction of this ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you for the second. Thank you for the intro. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clay?
Yes.
Mr. Manginelli?
Yes.
Mr. Nessie?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes. There are no ordinances on for final consideration this evening, which brings us to the open public discussion. May I have a motion to open the public discussion?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
This is the time the public may comment on any topic of their choice. Please state your name and address for the record and observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment this evening? Yes, Ms. Goldberg. Oh,
Good evening, this is Mitch Kohlberg, 21 Cedar Place.
go ahead.
Thanks, it's good to, this is the first time I made it back in person here, so it's great to see everybody again. And so, to the few folks that are here, and the thousands of people watching the live stream, just again, want to remind everyone that we do have the Tinton Falls Library fundraiser. I know it's been mentioned a couple of times, that's this Saturday. Tons of work is going into it, it's going to be a really great day, so make sure you get there. 12 to 8 is the time. No, don't tell them how much it is till they get there. It's $10 per person and $30 for a whole family. So, but that brings me to a little side thing. I reached out to the borough administration recently in an attempt to promote the library festival, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we use the phone, you know, the emergency text message thing or whatever that goes out to all the residents to make sure everybody knows, because not everybody sees all the places we've got it posted. And I was politely declined. I was told that that was not the policy, you know, that typically that's only used for emergency purposes, and that's the policy, so that's okay. So I'm really here just to say that I would maybe like to see that policy reviewed. In general, I think it's a really powerful tool. I know people don't want to get phone calls all the time. I'm among them, you know, but there's a huge gap between, you know, 3 or 4 times a year or whatever it is, and overdoing it, right? And I think there's plenty of good reasons that we could use this system. I am told, in a previous query, I think I was told that we're paying a flat rate for it, so I don't think there's any additional cost for using it more often. And so, you know, as council or administration, I'd just like to, you know, think of it that there's some more ways to use that, not just for the library. We've had some discussions about recycling and how a lot of people don't know the rules and things like that, and that might be a good opportunity to get some information out. There was just a Little League parade recently, you know, that was kind of put together at the last minute because we won the thing. I just happened to get notified of that by some people I know, but, you know, that would have been something I would have thought. So anyway, I think I've made the point. And, oh, one last thing I put here, just maybe phone calls. Some people really get antsy about phone calls. I don't know if this system has an option, but maybe for the non-emergent things, you could just be a text message / email option only or something. I don't know if that exists, but.
Thank you, Mr. Kohlberg. And I believe there is an option when you sign up, you can choose how you want to receive the messaging, text, email, phone, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I know we had an email communication about this, so I'll let Mr. Fallon respond.
And we did speak on this, and
Thank
you
you
know,
for reaching out.
yeah, of course, and yeah, I reached out to our emergency management department, who really handles our hyper reach program, as well as to my director of law to discuss that, and I hear what you're saying, but in their opinion, it really should be utilized for public safety, emergency management, maybe traffic, okay? But maybe we could do something where we could have more like a community alert system, where people who may want to sign up for these types of notifications could just sign up for them, and that they would be the only ones that receive those notifications. So why don't I check into that, and maybe we can work something like that out. So there would be an emergency alert system, and maybe more like a community alert system.
That would be a fantastic solution.
So let me take a look and
make people angry.
see what we can do.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. And I know, Tom, in other towns, maybe we can make it even when you were signing up for that emergency, you can, there's a bullet, you can sign up just for emergency alerts, whether just for weather alerts or all community events. And that would be
Yeah,
the way
I will-
the
I
people
will
could
talk-
choose when they sign up.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll talk to Dave and John and see what that system can do, and maybe we can build it right into that system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Was there any other public comments this evening? Yes, ma'am?
Ellen Goldberg, 90 Glenwood Drive. I had two things I wanted to mention. I'm not going to say the library again because it's been said enough times. But there is, I believe, there are no more tickets left for the Taste of Tinton Falls. I believe they are sold out. So that's a really good thing. I wanted to publicly thank Mr. Neff. I sent him an email yesterday with quite a number of questions, and he very quickly got back to me. And not only were the answers very well thought out, but they were very easy to understand as well. And I just want to thank you very, very much for your prompt attention and how well you answered the questions for me. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir? Did you have a question?
Good evening, Frank Matula from 43 Lennox Drive. I just wanted to ask, I've mentioned this many times in the past, over the past couple of years, if there's any appropriations in the budget for doing any road improvements for minor stuff like cracks in our local roads and some of our homes. I do have a street on 43 Lennox Drive. Lennox Drive has a lot of sublayer issues. It was fixed about 20 years ago when we moved in. The road, about 5 years after we came in, was repaved, but it was only surfaced as opposed to having spoken to someone at the time. They said really the way to solve some of the problems would be to dig down and do the whole sublayer and base and then build up. And that's a major expense. In the meantime, I guess, I'm just wondering if there's any consideration of doing crack repairs, some maintenance to keep the value of the homes in those areas looking good and keeping that.
Yep, so there is definitely a road program, and I'll let Mr. Neff talk to that. Or Mr. Fallon, about the budget piece.
I guess I'll address the annual appropriation. Yes, in the Department of Public Works, their streets and roads budget, there is money that is appropriated for them to do some minor repaving, potholes, things of that like. So if that would meet that type of criteria, we could talk after the meeting, or you could shoot me an email and I can get it to the right people and see if we can help you out there. Right.
Okay. Is there any further public comments? Okay. I would like to ask it. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name's Jeffrey Lisk. I live over here on Wayside Road, 2031. A couple years ago, after I moved into the town, I submitted a kind of like a letter to the council and to the mayor, and also a petition on change.org.
I remember your name.
You do?
Yeah, we just.
Okay. Yeah, so it might seem kind of random, and I don't know if other people have brought this up before. This is my first meeting. But I wanted to see if we can change the ordinance to allow residents to have chickens in the backyard. It sounds kind of crazy, but Eatontown changed theirs to allow, I put it in the letter, I don't remember the details, but it's like 5 chickens for like under an acre and 7 for whatever. I have an acre and a half, and I think it's kind of crazy that you can't have any chickens unless you're 5 acres or more and labeled as a farm. So I just think it's, I have a huge backyard, I have a lot of ticks. I just thought it would be a great idea, but I didn't want to break any kind of law, so.
Yeah, no, so we're on board, so they're actually, I'm trying to remember the dates of the meeting, but we had a workshop session on chickens where we actually brought in the chicken expert, I guess you could say, of South Jersey, Ms. Bell, and Ross Lacitra, the head of the Monmouth County SPCA, to give their perspectives. If you want to give me or send me an email, I get you the exact date of that, because if you can listen to the recording if you'd like to hear the whole conversation, because it was quite lengthy. I'd say about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so The long, short summary is, we're all on board. We're actually, Mr. Nessie and Mr. Siebert are working on a 2-year pilot program. The exact details of the ordinance have to be worked out, but that should be forthcoming, in the next couple meetings, I would say. But yeah, we preliminarily agreed that we would all be amenable to a 2-year pilot program. We actually, that's how I recognize your name, we use the Eatontown as kind of a sample,
Yeah.
and that's what we kind of talked about. It was kind of recommended by this chicken expert, I guess I'll say, Miss Bale, is a 2-year pilot program with a certain amount of homes, and then assuming everything goes successfully, then you can kind of create something, learn any lessons, and then have a permanent. So that's in the works.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, we've been, myself and Mr. Nessie have been working on this for quite a while, refining it and addressing some council members' concerns and moving towards a ordinance that will be acceptable to all the council. So I thank everyone for that so far, and I look forward to seeing it on the agenda in the near future.
Great, thanks.
And for the pilot program, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's going to be limited for just the 2 years of a handful of residents. I think it's 25 or so. But if you're interested, I stay in contact with one of us, or we'll, exchange emails, and then submit the application. We'll go through the whole process from there.
Yep, great, thank you. Yes, did you have another comment?
I did. Just came to mind. I'll sit down a couple more times and come up a few more times. So Frank Matula, 43 Lennox Drive. I did notice over the past couple weeks that the smell of asphalt has been somewhat pervasive. I'm just wondering, has the township had any complaints directly from some of the evening operations and any odor complaints, or any concerns about it from any of the residents that live closer to the plant?
Nothing has been brought to my attention.
Okay.
So as far as I know, no.
Okay, because residents do, if this is obviously a public record, and if people aren't aware, they can make complaints. In my personal opinion, having odor control and understanding of this, and I'm odor trained and all sorts of crazy environmentally trained, it is a concern, not directly for me because I live a little bit further away, but when I come driving through the area at times, I do notice it's pretty significant. I'm not looking to shut people down, but if people have a complaint, they can do so to, I guess, either you guys, the county, the DEP, and they should, because there are ways for odor control to occur at facilities like that. And I'm just wondering, if people are doing complaints or not, and you're suggesting they're not at this point. But I don't intend on putting a complaint.
The engineer's not aware of any, and,
Okay.
and nothing's come across my desk at this time.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard anything. I sit with the code enforcement zoning officer a lot too, and I haven't heard any mentions of that before.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I'd like to ask the clerk at this time if there have been any public comments submitted via email prior to the council meeting.
No, I didn't receive any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hessler. Hearing no further comments, may I have a motion to close the public discussion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, and the second one is Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Miscellaneous business, does any member of council have anything to add that they did not cover in reports? Okay. Before we move on to the consent agenda, are there any items any member of council would like to be removed and voted on separately? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Siebert for the first and Mr. Manginelli for the second. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clay?
Yes.
Mr. Manginelli?
Yes.
Mr. Nessie?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. There's no executive session or workshop this evening, so this concludes today's business. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Siebert. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nessie. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is now adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
Get home safe, everyone. Sounds like it's pretty wet out there.